Good morning everyone, welcome to the third part of the floor grates tutorial. Here we'll be covering the roughness and the metallic. The metallic is very short, so I figured I'd just bunch it in with roughness rather than doing its own separate video. Alright, so we're going to start, this is just like the default uniform color. We're going to start by creating, I already started this, a uniform color set to grayscale because we're working with roughness. And we're starting with a base. This is going to be the base roughness for the metal, and then we'll be adding another base roughness for the graded floor, similar to like what we did with the base color, where like everything we did here was for the metal, and then from this point on it became everything about, or it became about the floor grates. All right. So this one's going to be very repetitive, so it's going to be very simple. I'm going to try and just go pretty quick on this one. So yeah, let's just plug this in here. And for this one, it's usually how we do most of our materials. Pretty similar workflow. So we're going to have a, let me bring this down a little bit. We're going to have a uniform color set to -7 by -7, so it's a 16 by 16. It doesn't need to be like a 2K or 4K texture just because it's a uniform color. Set to grayscale and then all the way up to 1. And then we have a levels down here. You can probably just copy and paste this with a fresh levels and then just place a couple afterwards and then just, plug them in as we go. But for this one, we're going to pull from the start here. So from this clouds here, we're going to pull from this guy. And we're going to drop him onto this guy, and this guy's set to 0.05, very subtle. Let's see if we can notice any change. It's there, but it's subtle. But yeah, actually let me pull up the reference. Let me pause. So if we look here, there is a clear difference between the metal and the graded floor. It is very reflective. You can see a lot of reflections. So I want this to be a little glossier, less rough than the metal, of course. But right now, remember, we're just working on the metal. So any change in here is going to be overridden later. So I don't know why I'm looking here. I should be looking at the metal. All right. So let's mark this thing down a little bit. Now here I did do this a little differently. Instead of having its own levels, I just pulled from this levels. This guy's set to max lighten, by the way. And then this guy is set to copy with a opacity of 0.05. Now, actually, this is I'm gonna I'm gonna replug this uniform color back in to the base color because it's hard to see the roughness changes with our base color stuff. So I'm just gonna go back to like a neutral color, and then we can start seeing the changes. This is plugged in, right? Yeah, okay. It's just very, very subtle, so it's hard to tell. All right, moving on. Same thing. Put that there. And then for this guy, we are going to plug this guy in there. So now we're getting these details here. Is anything changing? Oh, yeah, it is. It's just very, very subtle. And the reason why it's very subtle is because I wanted to, match the concept. And even the metal in here is a bit reflective. You can see the way the light bounces here. So I didn't want to make it too rough, because then we would lose a lot of the light bounce. But yeah, it's all about the subtle details. It should be like the motto of the channel. Subtle details. Alright, so let's continue on. I don't think I missed any settings here. Oh, it said the copy 0.045. So yeah, it's very, very, very small number. Then for this guy, we are going to pull from this guy. Let's move this down. Alright, set the copy, set to 1. This is set to 0.942. I wonder why, it could probably just be 1. So this one's a little bit more noticeable. You can see it here. Because I want these dirt stains to be a lot more noticeable on the roughness. Then we want to pull from this guy here. Now we're getting some actual noticeable differences. Actually, did I show this guy's levels numbers? Set to 0.02. Then this guy, probably just round this up to 0.81. Set the copy, set to 1. Same thing here. White, grayscale all the way up. Let's go to the next one. And then we're going to plug in from this guy here. We're just going down the line, just like as if we were doing the color. Make sure your strings are lining up like that. Set the copy, same uniform color, level set to 0.35. Okay, and then here we have like a long break, because yeah, this guy's pretty long. And then we need this guy. Let's reconnect this. Okay, and then we want to pull from this guy here, from the blend. Set the copy, same uniform. We'll just round this down to 0.45. Okay. Then we have another one, surprise, surprise. And then for this guy, we are going to plug in from this blend here. And you can see how every new blend just adds more and more detail. I don't think I changed anything in the levels for this one. Okay. Let's go to the next set. Boom. Boom. Then for this one, we are going to... Actually, we need to go down a little bit, because we're going to be pulling from this guy here. We'll just do 0.7. We'll do 0.88. And then 0.48 on the level in mid. Make sure you're paying attention. Sometimes I will change this guy here. Whoop. Boom. Boom. And then for the next one, we're going to pull from these two, or from this guy here. Now these are all set to copy. Okay, this guy here is set to 0.15. Sometimes I end up changing the opacity here instead of this guy here, which they pretty much do the same thing. Um, so I don't know. Sometimes I decide to use one over the other. I don't know if I've been showing these blends, but yeah, copy with the opacity of 0.15, 1, 1. But yeah, I encourage you guys to like play around with it. You guys should, if you guys are not too sure about like what's happening or why it's set to that like specific value, I really recommend you guys just like play with the sliders, just move it up and down, and you'll see the change, and then you'll see what it's doing, and then that helps you understand like why I did what I did. Oh, I shouldn't have copied those guys. Wait, which one am I on now? This lonely guy here. So let's grab these guys. Sorry, I wasn't seeing what I was doing. Okay. So let's bring this guy right there. 0.4. Copy set to 1. Just adding more scratches. Now remember, this roughness is just for the metal, so not the floor grates. So we're gonna override all this in a second. We're almost there actually. Actually, we're one away. Alright, so let's grab these guys. Make sure these are snapped. Oh, nothing plugged in. Actually, for this guy, why did I do that? I don't know why I pulled from this guy from the original. It should be from this guy. So yeah, we're gonna pull from this guy. Must have not noticed, or I think I maybe added the directional warp after, and then I didn't update it on my roughness. Okay. This is set to, let's just do a 0.65. Set the copy, this guy set the copy, copy, and copy. Very small details there. All right, and then here's where we override now. Now we're going to be working, this is basically the roughness for the metal. So now we are going to work on the grates. For this guy, we need to pull from, we're going to make a connector here. And just move this guy here. Just to have a clean separator between the metal and the grate roughness. I'm going to plug that in down there. So now you see that the floor grate is just overpowering everything that we just did, because we want to do a different set of roughness, because in our reference, the metal and the grates aren't the same. These are clearly glossier. So we want to make sure we do that. And the roughness that you would find on the metal is going to be different than what you would find on, something glossier. Probably be like scratched easier or less easy, rust, dirt, all that good stuff. Okay, so let's carry on here. Then for this guy, gonna use this guy here. Now you can see here it's very subtle. There is a difference from this to this, or using this mask. Set the copy. This is set the copy as well. Oh, I forgot to show this, I think. The grayscale value for this guy is 0.05. So it's very, very, very glossy. Sorry about that. And then we're doing 0.05 for this levels here. Okay. We can move these guys down so they line up with this guy up here. Makes everything easier to track when everything's kind of lined up together. Let's make this one that. 0.51. Set the copy. Then moving on. We're actually almost close to the end. Whoops. Nope. Oh god. Oh my. Okay, I think that is plugged in. Okay. Now for this guy, we're going to be pulling from this guy over here. Move that down. Alright. Point 2. Set the copy. Pretty standard. Oh my god. My clicks. Okay, so next one is this guy right here. Set the copy. This is set to 0.075. Alright. Where we at? Then after this guy, I think we're here. Okay. 0.05 for this guy. Alright, and I don't think I did a roughness for this guy here, so we'll just do one real quick. I don't think I just forgot to use him on the roughness, so we'll just we'll do this one live. Yes, we're gonna plug from this guy because obviously we need to have the mass subtract. Okay. Now this is way too rough for our floor, so we're gonna. Are you seeing how I do it? Let's go with 0.6. Alright, I think it's time to replug this back in. Okay. And then we're almost done here, guys. This one should go down the line some more. This guy. Now here, this one's at the copy by the way. Now here, the reasoning here, I used subtract because I wanted to have some really like glossy spots. Like something that like, brushed over it and like cleaned it basically. So you can see here that we add some very dark, like grayscale, like 0 almost, roughness value to kind of get this effect here. So you can see how like this line, this streak is like a lot glossier than the rest. And that gives us some nice contrast because if you just pile on roughness on top of roughness on top of more roughness, you just get like an overall rough roughy. I don't think that's a word. Like a very rough look. And it's nice to have like some glossier details a little bit where it's fitting, of course. If you're, if you're working on something that it shouldn't have any uh glossiness, then it does, it would look odd. But for this case, you could have some stuff like this where it just kind of breaks up the roughness and adds some more like interesting detail. All right. Now we're moving on to the dirt. So this is going to make a big difference here. Okay. And then obviously we're going to pull from after the dirt because this is where we mask out because we wanted different dirt values for the floor grates versus the dirt accumulated in between the metals. I think I did show this guy right. Don't forget this one's set to subtract because we're trying to go down in roughness value. Um, okay, so this one's set to 0.85, set to 1, set to copy, set to 1. So like I said, here is where we're driving like how much of the dirt we want. So this is like this is like after the dirt has been added through the dirt generator here. And then we subtracted some of that dirt from the floor grades because we want it to be, less rough than the metal. And then the metal keeps the original. And then obviously we need to drive from there. So big difference after we do this. Because obviously the dirt's going to add a lot of roughness variety. If you have Painter, I showed you guys in the previous episode how to bring in other bitmaps from Painter. If you don't have access to Painter, I didn't really come up with like an alternative for this one because this one isn't really that big a deal. But this one is called, if you have Painter, Grunge Dusty Scratch. And let me just show you what the default look is. So turn this off and then change this to 1. Yeah, if you click this thing, you can hit reset and it'll give you like the default values. So I think this is like when you bring it in from Painter, this is what it looks like. And then I rotated it by 45 degrees and then I increased the tiling to 2. So if you're trying to mimic this, I wouldn't suggest it. It's not that big a deal, but this is basically what all this layer is going to do. And we're going to be subtracting here, and it's going to be very, very subtle. So if you don't have Painter, you can probably just skip this step. It's not that big a deal. But I'll show you what this is doing. So maybe you can try and replicate it your own way. Be good practice. All right. So let's see. I think I spotted a difference here. So here's another one. Just again, subtracting, trying to get some more interesting contrast. Then here I added a couple stuff that isn't on the base color, so this is just like strictly roughness only. You could go back and add this to the base, but I didn't do that. Just strictly uh, roughness information here. Again, I subtracted. I'm subtracting dirt. It doesn't sound correct, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to get to our end result, and we're trying to get to a result that looks good. So, just because it's dirt, it doesn't mean you can't subtract dirt. And let's make sure we plug this in. That way we can see the differences. So you can see here like some specs that are like basically cleaning the graded floor just to kind of add some more contrast. This blend set to 0.035. Grayscale set to 1. And then last part here, the last roughness edition. Oh, right. Okay, so this is done at the very end because if we look at our roughness map now, our roughness in the holes are basically taking on the roughness from the metal, uh, which we don't want because if we were to use this like in a game environment, we don't like when somebody like let's say the player has a flashlight and they aim it down, they're going to see there's going to be differences down there in roughness, and it's going to look odd because why is there like metal roughness basically like in a hole like this where you would want it to be dark, right? So we are going to be pulling from, is it this guy? Yeah, I think it's this guy. Yeah. So we're pulling from this guy basically, the mirror grayscale, which is this connector below this invert grayscale. If we follow this down, it'll lead to this guy, and then we put it through a scan to make sure we get the full range of it. Because I don't want, this where it like kind of falls off. I wanted to get this, and then you can see here that it's the inside. And actually, we can probably tweak this. Actually, we'll just leave it there. But yeah, basically we're just saying the holes are going to be 100% rough. So then we go from this where you can see like the metal roughness stuff, and we make it a solid white. Because, when you would plug this into like let's say Unreal Engine, you would also use uh you would probably have to export a separate map because in Unreal Engine there is a specular output for materials. And specular is basically when you look at anything in the world, you can see kind of like light reflecting on things. I don't know really how to explain it, but everything basically has specular. But for something like this is where you would go out of the realm of like reality and just make it so it has no specular. Because you don't want any light reflecting from these holes. They need to look like, see how like it falls off into darkness? That's what you want. Um, that's why we also did that here, because otherwise you would get this, and that's not true black. And you want it to be black. You want it to represent like there's nothing down there. Um, and I mean, I guess if you really wanted to, you could also make this transparent if you do want to be able to see under it, and then you could have like pipes and stuff down there. But we didn't go that route. And you can also do like the pipes, using assets and geometry. But yeah, so this will be the last step because we don't want anything to happen after this because we want this to be solid white. We can get rid of that. Okay, so that's the end of roughness, and let's do metallic real quick. This one's really, really short. Um, set the copy, set to 1. And then for these guys, some of these guys are set to 8 by 8, which is, if you do -7 or -8, the difference is like less than 1% in performance, I think. So one or the other works. I think I was doing this texture at 4K, but I didn't think it was necessary, so I scaled it down. So some of them I was using 8 by 8. Okay. I think I showed this in the beginning, but yeah, we're using a normal of 10. We're using a height depth of 0.05. We're doing a height scale of 1.5, and this will vary per person, but I would recommend at least 6. All right, so for the metallic, we are going to start with a uniform color. Again, set to grayscale because grayscale information for metallic as well, similar to roughness, similar to height. This is set to copy. This is set to black, and it's also set to grayscale. And then we want to use follow the spaghetti here. We want to use this blur right here. So I think we already have like a road for it, a highway. So let's follow that. So we want from here. Okay, so this guy's gonna go down there, like that. Um, I can't really tell, not that, whoops. I can't really tell from this if this is metal or not. It could be, or it could also just be like a coat, like a painted coat on top of it. So I didn't want to make everything metal, so I went with that approach where I wanted the metal to be metal and then those floor grates to not be metal. Okay. So then, now that we subtracted that from the base metal, we're gonna do another one of these guys here. We're all familiar with. This one's set to subtract because again, we're trying to subtract from the metal because for this mask we're going to be using the dirt again. So let's go all the way up here. This guy. Actually, let me move this back a little bit so it kind of matches up with it. And we can move this guy as well. Okay, so again, we're subtracting. So, where were we? Right, so this is what we had before. And then here we're subtracting metallic because, you know, dirt isn't metallic. So then let's plug this in. So you can see the difference here in like the metal reflections. And then we have one more thing to do here. Last step. Plug that in there. Plug that in there. Now what is this for? Let me see. Oh, okay. We need to pull from this guy here. This is the same guy that we did over here, this mask. This is basically just the holes of the grate. So this goes through a scan, 1-1. Actually, let me show, I don't think I showed this. This is actually nothing changed for this guy. Scan, 1-1. Grayscale, set to 1. Copy, set to 1. And basically here, what we did with the roughness, if you're using a game engine, like I said, we'll have a mask where the specular will be set to 0, which will mean that that surface or that mask will not reflect any light whatsoever. It's just going to absorb 100% of the light. I think that's how that works, yeah. Of reflections. But I don't think, actually, there might be. Let me see. If we go here, here, here. Is there a specular here? Maybe it's sheen? Or maybe there is no, yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, if you're using specular, you can turn the specular down to 0 using this mask so that the no light reflects here. That's if you're using Unreal Engine 4. If you don't have a specular slider, which you probably do, but I just probably don't know where it is. If you make it metallic, it makes it look darker than if it wasn't. So for example, if we plug this guy in here, it's hard to tell here because it's super dark, but making it metallic makes it look even darker. So if you want to get like true, but in a game engine, there's a slider for it. So like if you don't have specular, you would want to make it metallic, and if you do have specular, you can turn the specular down to 0, and then that's as if you have the roughness set to 1 and the specular set to 0. Which I keep saying I'm going to do a tutorial on Unreal Engine. I think I'm going to update my Unreal Engine and maybe get at least one of these materials in there for you guys, so show you guys how to do that. So yeah, that's the end of metallic, and that's the end of, you know, this material. And obviously everything looks better when you take the time to set it up in a scene like in Marmoset or in Unreal Engine. But you can probably change the skybox in here and make it look nice. But that's it. As usual, guys, let me know if you guys want to make requests. If there's something specific you want to see, I can try my hand at it. I think that's a good way for me to get out of my comfort box. If you guys ask me to do something, I'll give it a try, but no guarantees. All right, guys. I'll see you guys on the next one.